that. Now I'll see how good I did with my training from Larry. Hey, I saw the big red button, Larry. I appreciate that. And with that, we need to get to the real thing here. And let's see, Larry, let's see if you can see if the recording is working. I just see a red dot there, but you can tell me. Okay. Turn it over to you, Larry. And as everyone knows, Larry not only is a genealogist for us here, but he's been for the State Genealogical Society, Randolph County. He won a national award as best in our country for the National Genealogical Society, as well as others. So he's highly qualified. We're lucky that he's here. Larry, let me turn it over to you. Thank you.
Well, good morning, everybody. I want to apologize for me sitting. I don't usually sit when I'm giving presentations, but I'm doing it today because I need a surface area for the situation. And yeah, I think you can hear me because I usually am pretty good at projecting. If you can't hear me, I will try to do better. Just raise your hand. I also have a huge circle light over here, and that's not because I think I'm Norma Desmond in Sunset Boulevard. Uh, this area is very dark with the little camera without that circle light for some reason. And I think there's a spotlight over, but that's not really the reason why it's dark. I think the camera has some problems, so that's why we're doing that deal today. So when we created our YouTube channel back in, say, 2020 and 2021, Heritage Deep Dive is what it's called on YouTube. And there's about 35 videos on there right now. We have a flyer about it in the back if you want to pick that up before you leave. One of the first things that I wanted to do, the first video that I wanted to do was an introduction to family search. And we were in the opening months of the pandemic at that point. We were working from home, and so many people were trying to avoid exposing themselves to the virus. Not many people knew much about it at that point. It seemed like a good time to introduce patrons to Family Search, a way to avoid exposure and work on family history at home without risking their health. Not to mention, just before the cataclysm hit, we had initiated the process here at the library to get our licensure from Family Search to become a Family Search affiliate library. So that status was achieved during the lockdown, and I wanted our patrons to understand how that special relationship could benefit them. But that particular danger is over at this point, but Family Search is no less crucial to my research than it was at the time. In fact, it has only grown in importance, both professionally and personally. I use Ancestry.com and Family Search a lot, daily, in fact, in my work. And each is essential to me, but if I had to choose one or the other, I couldn't have both. If I were going to some kind of remote island and I could only get one, I believe I would keep Family Search and get rid of Ancestry. That's how important it is to me. Well, one thing is it's more comprehensive. There are many records that are unindexed on Family Search or just beginning to be indexed in a certain way. And it's also entirely free. And I don't particularly enjoy paying every 6 months when that bill comes up. So, and when I began to prepare this talk, which I first gave about 4 months ago, I went back to my notes from 2020 and 2021 and thought about, well, I'll just be able to, make a few small changes and this will be just perfect and it'll be ready to go. But like everything on the web, Family Search is always evolving and changing. And I found I had to throw out the whole thing and just start over, which is what I did in preparing this discussion. It's vastly more powerful and wide-ranging than it's ever been before, and it continues to grow in strength. So this is a bird's eye view because this site is so large, and this tour will be very fleetingly transporting us across many different aspects of the site, which I will try to demonstrate for you. There's no PowerPoint that goes along with this presentation. This is a demonstration presentation. There are spots that we will linger upon longer. Some of the AI-fueled capabilities, the records access, and the family tree, and a lot of the other material will get shorter shrift this time around. So I'm going to start out by sharing my screen. Here's my turn. Here's my test. So I'm hoping that everybody, people present and people not present, with us in person are seeing the screen for Family Search at this point. I'm going to need to minimize and move this out of the way. Now, this is what the homepage of FamilySearch.org. Remember that it's .org. And by the way, if you have questions, I know you're going to have questions. I am not an expert on Family Search. I am just an ordinary user who does a lot of work with Family Search. So I may not know the answer to your questions, but your answers to your questions are on the site itself for sure. And there may be somebody else in here who knows the answer to the question, and I don't. So just keep that in mind. And also, if you'd reserve the questions to the end, if you're online, place it in the chat and we'll get to it. It may be that if you wait long enough, you'll hear the answer to your question as well. So that's one good reason to wait for the end. Family Search is a result of a collaboration between the Genealogical Society of Utah and the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. It's intimately associated with what we now call the Family Search Library in Salt Lake City, Utah, formerly known as the Family History Library. And in fact, it acts as the catalog and the digital access point for that facility. How many of you have ever been to the Family Search Library in Salt Lake City? And I see about five hands up. So those people know a lot about it. You know that it's a mammoth, multi-floor facility near the central square filled with genealogy-related books and records on film from all around the world. And there are different floors for different regions of the world. And the enterprise is largely run by volunteers who are also members of the LDS Church. I think we're very fortunate that our LDS friends adhere to the idea that they have a religious duty to discover and seal their ancestors into the faith through temple ordinances of salvation. They believe that they can do rites for their deceased relatives who were not alive when Joseph Smith and his message came through. And that's one of the reasons they're so focused on genealogy. They have a can-do, enterprising spirit in that regard. Before you can seal your ancestors, you have to know who they are. So compiling family histories is essential spiritual practice for the faithful in the church. Latter-day Saints remain at the very forefront of the genealogical field, and they have applied technologies toward preserving, aggregating, and interpreting records that have made sources more accessible to all of us. And they don't charge a dime for that. But if you wish to demonstrate your gratitude, you can donate monetarily or volunteer to participate in their indexing projects, and that benefits everyone. And I encourage you to consider doing that. Nowadays, when you're doing indexing, however, you're helping to train the artificial intelligence resources they are applying to handwritten records as well as printed records to make it more accurate in doing its indexing. So you kind of like the check. The two of you are working together to train the AI to do it independently. You may be an expert in a certain region or a certain language, certain scripts that were used in the past in Europe, for example, that a lot of us would think looked like Greek if we were reading it. If you have any specialized skills in other languages or scripts from the past, you are a huge benefit to this endeavor, and you would want to consider, if you have free time, to do some training of the artificial intelligence. You may also know that embedded in their various congregations, the LDS Church has family search centers that are devoted to family history research. They were formerly called family history centers, where you can go to access records that are restricted from home and where you can provide classes and one-on-one assistance, just like we do in our unit upstairs in the Heritage Research Center. But these facilities are now open certain Saturdays, mornings or afternoons, or weekday evenings or mornings for 3 or 4 hours at a time. They're not open as much as a family search affiliate library like us would be open at regular business week. Now, we can offer you, there are certain records that are restricted from home that you may be able to see in our Family Search affiliate library, or any of the others that are available in the area. But there are tiers of restriction, and we'll get back to that in a few minutes. Actually, we're going to get to it right now. How and why are records restricted? Well, the LDS Church, you must remember, has gathered material, original records, and continues to gather them from repositories all over the world, whether those be archives or churches or libraries, government institutions, or personal collections. In former times, they created microfilm to preserve all of these images. But now all those records that they accumulated, if they start accumulating this point forward, it's going to be digitally originally, that they're capturing them in digital form. And then usually they're putting them right in front of the AI and trying to train the AI to index. And then they're trying to catch up on all that back catalog. And they managed within the last few years to completely finish digitizing all their microfilm records. So that is an amazing, a stunning amount of material that is available up there for you. When they were going into the institutions to acquire all of these original materials, they had to sign user agreements with every individual institution that held them. So the terms of use are different for different repositories that hold the original records. That's why there are different tiers of access. So the vast majority you can see from home with an account. There's another level that you might be able to see if you go to the family history centers or the family history affiliate libraries. And usually the centers have a little bit more access than the libraries have access to the restricted records. And then there's that upper level tier, the highest tier, where you wouldn't be able to see it unless you went to Salt Lake City or hired somebody to look at it in Salt Lake City. So those are why you have those restrictions. Please keep in mind that as you use materials offered by Family Search, as amazing as they are, what you find is not everything that is available in this big wide world of ours. Family Search has not collected all records from all places, not even close. I mean, clearly, Africa and Asia are quite far behind other regions. There are other places where political situations make it difficult for them to get access to records, say from places like Cuba or Russia. Other areas may just exclude the church's record collection efforts because they want control of the access to the records that they hold in their repositories, and they want people to continue to visit those repositories. So they may have said no. And you know that there are all kinds of private things that people have, private collections in our university and archives that you could only go if you went there. And there's certain categories of records that people just haven't thought much about in terms of genealogy being useful for genealogy when they actually are. One example of that would be the petitions that are filed with state legislatures, which contain the names of many, many people. And they're particularly useful in that early period of time, 1700s, when we don't have census records, when we don't have a lot of other records to fill in the gaps, or whether local records have been destroyed, but the state level records are still there for a particular jurisdiction. So not that they're not going to get to it eventually. People will see the value. Criminal records, for example, which I love, and I've been working with extensively over the years for Guilford County and other counties. Those are largely absent, the original criminal papers and dockets for various courts. I don't know why that is. I think a lot of people feel hesitant to look at criminal records for apprehensive of what they might find about an ancestor that would make them feel bad. But they're just full of genealogical details or suggestions of relationships. That's the only picture. Yeah, well, if they were in prison, you might, in the 19th century, there very well might be a picture. Yeah. Yeah, prison records have been very restricted historically as well. The North Carolina State Archives, for example, um, when I first, well, when I was doing the journal for the State Genealogical Society, that was one thing I thought that would make an excellent series for the Genealogical Journal to go through all of the prison registers from the 19th century and just record every name and where they came from and what happened to them and why they were there and how long they were there. Because you've got people who went to prison that you didn't know what happened to them and you never saw them in another record again. Um, but when I went to the desk to ask about it, they said, give us a name and we'll look it up for you. And we'll let you see that page, but only that page. And that was the restriction. And that's true of some places. Mental institutions as well, that kind of thing could be enforced. And then there's some places and types of records that are just not accessible generally on any digital site. You get surprised sometimes. I've used a lot of South Carolina records, but I was trying to help somebody on Family Search with a ancestor that lived in Kershaw County, South Carolina, Camden, and has really good records, very complete records. But guess what? The probate packets, some of the best records you can use for genealogy about inheritance were not on Family Search. And they're nowhere else except in the state archives in Columbia and in the probate judge's office in the courthouse in Camden. Why is that? I can't explain it, but it's just to remind you, you don't find it here doesn't mean it doesn't exist. Just keep that in the back of your mind. So I'm sure that a lot of you are really excited. Probably a lot of you have already used Family Search, but those of you if you haven't used it before, I'm sure you're excited right now to get into these collections and tools. So what's a good place to start? Well, there are two key things to do initially. First, you need to get an account. You need to sign up. I told you it was free, but up here at the top right corner, there's a button where you can sign up. And you can continue with your Google account or your Facebook account, link this to your Apple account, any of those three accounts. Or if you had a church account, you could sign in that way. Or you can create a Family Search username and password and then confirm it through your email and sign in. Now, why do they want you to identify yourself when you're using this site? Well, as you'll see when we get into it, there are a lot of things that you can do in the site to alter it. And they want to know who's doing what. That's one very basic thing. It also gives you the opportunity to interact with other people through messaging and in other ways, discussions and chats and so forth. So you want to identify yourself to a degree to the site. You can control what people see about you, however, by managing your profile once you do have an account. So I'm going to sign in right now. And you can see because I've signed in now up in the top right-hand corner, I have my username appearing. So that will confirm it for you. Now, be sure to write down your credentials and stow them somewhere safely, though you can reset your password through your email address in case you forget it. I've done that. I think everybody has done that, not with this site, but other sites. And you can also download various Family Search apps to your mobile device for quicker and more portable access. I think at the bottom of the page, the very bottom of the page, there is a place to get your different apps. See down here under the Family Search apps? So if you have a tablet or you have a phone that you want the app on, you can get to the Family Tree through the Family Tree app. You can use the Memories app wherever you are with your portable device to capture photographs, documents, to record things that you want to add to your tree, like memories, to type things and add that through the app. You can do all that stuff to the family tree. Um, there are some other the apps I don't know a lot about, but the access to the apps is easy to find at the very bottom of the page. Now, having an account allows for personalization as well of your experience. But also crucial to that personalization is linking yourself into the family search tree. Uh, what do they call it officially? Just the tree or the family tree? World tree. Okay, or one tree.
Yeah, a world family
Uh,
tree.
We're going to talk more in detail about the tree later, but for now, just know that it's one tree for all people, such as is typical on some other sites like Genie or WikiTree. That means ideally there should be only one summary record for every ancestral person who has ever lived. There are ways to get other trees in, however, but they'll be your personal tree or your group level tree if you're working with a group of people and you don't want other people meddling. And all the material relevant to that person has a place where it can be fitted into his or her record, which is great. I think it's probably the family tree, the world tree, whatever it's called. That software is maybe competitive with any commercial software I've ever used for family history. It has a lot of different functionalities that you can use. Now, many of your ancestors are probably already living in the tree, but you build the tree out backwards from yourself because you might not be in the tree as you're definitely not going to be on your own tree. You might be in somebody else's tree as a living person that nobody else can see. But you want to start with yourself and then see where it leads you. You might have to add your parents in, and then it'll connect you to your grandparents automatically, and or maybe to your great grandparents if you get back that far. And that way you find your pathway into the tree where all people that are using the site can collaborate. For some folks from minority communities, there might not already be a lot of pre-existing entries for your ancestors into the family search tree, and you'll have to enter a lot more detail about your closer family members. But remember, anything you add about a living person, and there's always a way to mark that person as living, that person's data is concealed from anybody else. Only you can see it if it's in your tree. That offers protection for people's identities and their privacy. And you want to be cognizant always of that as a concern, visible to you, but not visible to others. Yeah,
Records for somebody. And somebody in that group is still living, they will show up with that record. So like somebody from the county that I was born in, and of course my father was born, and was putting in all the records from my father. Well, it put me in for the birth record. So I took it off. And I let them, and I contacted them and said, I don't know how you're connected, I'm so and so. I've taken that record off because I don't want my name so the person's still there. So you do have to be careful when you're adding sources to somebody. If those people are still living, kind of debate whether you want to put that record on or not.
a good point. You can also upload a GEDCOM version of an existing family tree that you created to the genealogy section of Family Search. If you look under the search headline tab there and choose genealogies underneath, you can see there's a place to upload your individual tree at the very bottom of that. And so it will classify the living people in your tree as such, and those who have having matches in the family search tree, those having no counterparts in the family search tree. But then you must manually compare the matching individuals from your tree with those in the family search tree and choose which overall record is more accurate. And you can go through each detail and choose to keep your record or the matching detail in the family search tree. You can add the people in your tree that are not in the family search tree. I have never done that. That's why that came off like I was reading Holy Writ, because I've never done that. What I did was simply connect myself individually through my parents and my grandparents to people who were already existing using their software.
You can see those trees. I'm not sure you can see the records because I haven't tried to see the records. But some people will put those trees down as a source in the one world tree. So again, you gotta look at it, decide. Really, you shouldn't be putting a family tree as a source for anybody.
Absolutely.
You know, But
Amen.
when they do that, you want to look at it, is it
Right.
double check?
You know what? I told you we need to co-present on this. Once you, as an individual, are linked into the family search tree, however, that's when the magic begins. The algorithms and the artificial intelligence will go to work for you. So if you look at my homepage here, which I went back to just now, you'll notice that Family Search is providing me with hints about my listed ancestors. And unattached relatives is suggesting per my existing ancestors in the Family Search tree, and the records and images that I can choose to attach to the tree under a given ancestor. There are already some of them present there that I can look at, and I can go into a full list of those. Any record that you find on Family Search or other websites can be linked to an individual in your tree under sources, and any that you've downloaded to your computer from another site can also be attached to individuals in your tree. And you can do that under sources or memories. Sometimes you want to do it under memories, sometimes you want to do it under sources.
Just know that when you upload a source from someplace other, and it's got multiple people on it, you're going to have to go to each person individually and add that source. It will not let you do like when you add sort to family search, where it will give you a list of people that you can just click on. You're gonna have to do it for each individual person.
Yes, it's not like it's not, it doesn't have ultimate
Well, and
flexibility about it.
it doesn't necessarily automatically let you link it to all of it.
But the thing is, as this evolves, and it will evolve, I think they're going to make it more user friendly. It is already pretty user friendly in my book, but it's going to get even more so. And the more feedback that we give, the better it's going to get as well. So let's just explore some of the site architecture of Family Search from what we know already. We'll start with the anchor menu at the top of the page. The first thing to note is the logo in the top left-hand corner. If you click on this, as it is on most websites, it will take you back to the home page no matter where you are. It's already there in the corner of every page, so you can go right back to the very beginning if you want to. And if you're like me, I get lost going down all these little rabbit holes and want to get back to my original page. That's an easy way to do it. Then there are drop-down menus for the family tree, which is the wiki tree, and we'll come back to that a little later. For searching various sources and records, and we'll come back to this in more depth on certain key aspects. But for now, I want to show you under the search menu that here there is a place for uploading your own personal trees. I think I've already mentioned that under genealogies, but I also want to talk a little bit more about what's under that. So there's a place that you can upload your own personal tree, search the individual trees that others have already created, um, or explore community trees that you see there in the middle that apply to hamlets, settlements, islands, villages, or clans rather than to specific families. And there are a lot of community trees here based on oral histories or clan level histories, say in Africa or Asia or Oceania or Scandinavia. It's amazing what's in there, and I don't think a lot of people have really looked at it. Uh, like in India, for example, they have clan books that go back to the 1300s or the 1200s. They have some in China that go back into the first millennium AD, tracing back to the ancestor of the clan, going all the way up into modern times. If the chairman Mao didn't manage to destroy those because he made an attempt to, and a lot of people hid them to protect them. So they're trying to get some of that more oral history or just bare name clan history down so that it will preserve for the future rather than just in human memory. And this is a way to get at some of that stuff. And oral genealogies, yeah, you can see that there on the right. Also take advantage of the Family Search wiki right here. This is it's churning. I'm not sure that you're actually searching so much there as looking for a clan name or a family name. I don't think you actually I haven't used it enough to be able to tell you. Well, then maybe you can do it that way. But it's just devoted to the material that's in place there in that specialized section. It's not the family tree, right? So here in the Research Wiki, this is a collaborative resource that authorized users can contribute to, and it offers a wealth of knowledge about different localities and topics, what records are available for them, the best sources and resources, particularly online resources. Very good at showing you what databases exist for a particular type of record in a particular typical place at Ancestry or MyHeritage or any of the major sites or on this website. So the way I like to get into it is through, you can search for a place that you're interested in. And the way you would search for a place, say in North Carolina, if you wanted to look at what's here for Moore County, specifically in North Carolina, you would enter it with this kind of syntax. And this is what you'll use throughout the site for places. And it'll bring you up different categories of records that include some reference to those names. But I think the best way to actually get into the wiki is to just use the map and click on the region. You're right. See, I didn't know that. Everything keeps moving. You know, that is not as useful, actually. And then when you click on the United States in that list, you can click on North Carolina. And then you can click on the map, but you can also see what generally it's saying about North Carolina and how you would do research there. And you have all these different topics to explore. You can do that for any locality in the world. You can do it for any kind of record that you want to research in the world. So those are things to consider using. It is not as good for some things as it is for other things. It depends on what people have been engaging with the site and what kind of expertise they have, the level of expertise and the level of time they're willing to devote to adding material to it.
You and just, but if you put in like I would love it. So if I put in Scotland there and pull up the Scotland's wiki, then it will say, well, Kirk such or parochial records or whatever, and then I can find what I'm looking for as opposed to going in the catalog and just putting a place in. Because where I might think the record should be, that's not where they actually are on things, so they're at a different level.
So the other thing I wanted to mention under search particularly is the books feature. And this consists of over 500,000 genealogical books in the family history collection, library collection that have been digitized. They are mainly books that are out of copyright protection. So what would be before January the 1st, 1931 at this point. And older genealogies can be very helpful to you. Older family history books like collective histories of counties that your ancestors came from, with the biographies in the back, you know, some of those histories that they did in the 19th century. Older record collections that were published that are no longer under copyright protection, and anything that they've gotten permission from people to make available who hold the copyright. They want it to go ahead and be digitized because it's been out of print for years. It's not like you can get a readily accessible copy. Some genealogical societies could have cooperated with them in getting their back issues digitized and on here because they're just not easy to access. And you can do a lot of that from home. I suspect, although I haven't confirmed it yet, that if you went to a family history center or even to the Family History Library in Salt Lake City, you would have a lot more access because I believe they've actually digitized almost all, if not all of their books that they have in the entire collection. It's kind of like the dream that they had that, you know, instead of when you're facing the library wall, instead of having to look down every shelf to find the books that pertain and the references to your ancestor, you could search the whole original record set, all the books, everything for your name and your place and your time period, and bring it all up right in front of your face on one, right there in a long list. That's their dream. So that's what they're working toward. It's just that our laws do prevent you from looking at a lot of that stuff from home. Um, and I agree with that. Those people that did that work, if they want to keep copyright, they should be able to keep copyright. The society should be able to keep copyright.
And you can still hear the library. Build it. But not everything.
But not everything, because I believe they probably digitized almost everything they've got. Uh, when you're using this, you can use the keyword field that it's giving you here, but you can also add other fields like title, subject, and author by switching that little toggle in the corner of the screen where it says advanced search. So that gives you more flexibility with using the books feature. And then we're going to come back to the search full text and search catalog and search records aspect of this. So don't think that I'm just ignoring that by skipping it. Now, the memory section, it allows you to cull information that others have uploaded from their private collections to the site or from their research that may pertain to your folks, and gives you the power to add your own photos and memories. There's a personal feed of memories in here that automatically generated from the site, tracking my relations and what others have uploaded about them. And mainly photos of people and tombstones and some news clippings are usually what I find in this. But it could be anything. People could write an oral history and make reminiscences and share them here. They could record something that they remember and share it here about somebody that you share in your family tree. So
Like the old history or something.
here's my gallery at the moment. This is just the stuff that I have added, and I have not added very much, as you can see. That makes me kind of ashamed of myself. But I have less time to do this, because I do family history all the time. But I'll show you an example of something that I came in here and saw the other day. This has to do with my great-great-grandfather. Where is he? Yeah, right here. I wish I had had this feed when I started doing my work on my great-great-grandfather, Thurgood Pate Stubbs, because he was known as Captain Stubbs in his neighborhood. He was a magistrate, but he used to know everybody in his community. He would take buggy rides down through rural Marlborough County, South Carolina, visiting. And I talked to his granddaughter, who was nearly 100 when I spoke with her. They lived with him, and so she would come along and he would introduce her to people, and he would tell her stories about the Civil War and all the battles that he endured. And he was a captain in his regiment. Um, and he talked about all the bloodshed and everything, and she just went on and on about that. And I'd heard that before, but someone uploaded something I found at the State Archives in Raleigh, I mean in Columbia, about his combined service record. This is his discharge papers here, which he had signed up the 20th of April, 1863, to serve 3 years. And then in June of 1863, he was discharged. And the reason was that it was a disability uh, caused by epileptic fits. So my grandfather was apparently, my great-great-grandfather was apparently very ashamed that he couldn't serve as in the Confederate service. And because people called him captain because he was a JP, he just used that to regale his daughter with tales of his Civil War exploits.
Second part.
He was a private. He was not a captain, except in the general sense of the honorific, they used for magistrates at the time. So I feel sympathy for that, honestly. At first, I was a little bit angry, and then I felt sympathy. All right. So and then get involved here. You see, that is a pathway for you to volunteer and to see what is available for you to do on this site. Some of the stuff I was talking to you about earlier. And activities are just fun little things that they put up here from time to time. They change it out to give you something you can do that's fun. Maybe you could involve a grandchild or something in an activity, something that just might be interesting for you. For example, there's one here about surname origins. I'll put my surname in to show you what it tells me about my surname. And it's telling me that it's from the Middle English, reflects of the Old Norse male personal name, which means Mary. Well, they got that one wrong for sure. But anyway, it's very accurate information about the name and some other variants of the name. What else could I do under activities? Oh, famous relatives. Oh my goodness. All right. So look, oh my goodness, look at all the famous relatives I've got. I must be related to all the prime ministers and presidents of the United States and Princess Diana and Emperor Pedro the First of Brazil. Oh my goodness. You know what? Uh,
It's a just for fun.
it is just for fun. This is all based on the family search tree. And you know how much people like to be related to famous individuals, right? You definitely want to see. So let's just look for example. Let's see, which one is it? Zachary Taylor, for example. Okay. It says I'm related to good old Zach through my Parker line. Oh my goodness. So they take it back correctly through Garrett Parker to William Parker, who lived in Montgomery County, North Carolina, and then they identify someone called John Parker as his father. Well, right off the bat, I know that the John Parker that they've identified as his father did not die in 1761. He had a will in the 1770s in Brunswick County, Virginia, so he died in the 1770s. And his wife was not named Mary Stone. So already there's a problem here. They're connecting them through a Parker family that lived out in Southside Virginia in the Surrey County area. This is not my Parker family. You can see how easily you can go wrong with a name like Parker and John Parker, by the way. But I'm going to show you a little bit further on down the road how I found out with Family Search where my John Parker was before he was in Brunswick County, Virginia. There's a way to get to the right answer, but depending on the Family Search tree, beyond maybe the 19th century to some extent, you're going to see lots of errors like this. So don't get too excited when you see that you're related to Princess Di, okay? Just for fun, right? The other one that I've used here is called Compare-A-Face. And I had imagined that this would be all about, I can take some photographs and upload them, and I could take some people that I know and identify them, people I don't know, and maybe it could tell me which family they're likely from because of the facial similarity or something of that nature. And that ain't how it works. All it is comparing me to all the photographs of my ancestors that are in this family tree already, and there aren't very many at the present time, and telling me to what degree I resemble them. So that's all it is. Or I could take myself and see what kind of celebrity I look most like. And I'm telling you, I'm not flattered. So that's that. Now let's look at some of the consistent functionality on the right-hand side of our screen. The locations icon is at the top right, another entryway into finding the nearest Family Search Center. So, you want to find out where the Family Search affiliate libraries are in your neighborhood. You want to find out where the Family Search centers are in the LDS churches. You can go in here and find that. So let's say we want to find a center. You can do a couple things here. You can type in a place once it loads. It can't determine where I am right now. That little arrow there is supposed to geolocate you, so you don't have to type in a place. And it did geolocate me correctly using my IP address. I do have to use this feature. So the little green dots are the family search centers, and we see the closest ones are in Winston-Salem and Greensboro. That's correct. But these other ones are the family search affiliate libraries. And if you click on any one of them, and they're in the list over here as well, you can find out what their hours are. You can find out how to contact them, and any special information they want to give about their collections will be in there as well. For instance, the Greensboro Family History Center is closed right now. That's the one I've always gone to on Pine Top Road. Okay, there is also in this corner a globe, and that is the language icon. So if I didn't speak English, I could change all this to Spanish in a heartbeat. And everything on the screen is now in Spanish. And I can go back to English as well. My browser is asking me, do I want to translate to English now that it's in Spanish? But I don't. I'm just going to go back to English. There are a lot of languages in there to choose from. You'll find a help circle, which is a question mark inside a circle up there. So you can type any questions that you have or search for any kind of articles that you want to use. Like I could type in here, how do I use compare-face? And it should, well, it won't do it. It's just trying to embarrass me. There it is right there. How do I use compare-face? Usually it's going to take me to a video. It could take me to some other resource that I could download, like a syllabus for a lecture or something that's been given. I also encourage you, in addition to using for your helps to find out how to do different things, how to use different features of the site, different record sets, how you use those, that you make use of the website's access to the old you can probably do this better just by Googling it. If you every year they do in February usually a Gen Tech conference, and you can go in post when they close down the conference, and you can see a lot of the different videos that they've recorded from presentations that were given. It's Roots Tech, isn't it? Not Gen Tech. So when I was preparing for this lecture, for example, this is how you get to Roots Tech. You can go in there and look at all the different videos that they've made public. Now, it's not everything that they presented at the conference. Some of it was only available at the conference. And it also goes back to previous conferences. And you can search for a topic that you want to explore more about.
You don't have videos.
The slides could be there. They were for the one that I looked at yesterday. Also in this top right-hand corner, I'm going to get rid of Roots Tech in a minute. There is a chat function, which serves as a messaging system. So you can contact people through their usernames. When you see something they've done on here and you have a question about it, you want to know why they thought that a certain person was related to another person, you can go in here and message them. That's not guaranteeing that they're ever going to reply to you, but they very well can. And you can also talk to them in real time, like you're chatting, if they happen to be online at the time you are and want to talk to you. There is after that a notification section, which will tell me if I'm following people in the family tree, what changes have been made to the people that I'm following. I'll explain to you why you want to follow people in your family tree sometimes in a moment when we talk more about that. Let's see. Finally, in the very extreme top right corner is your account settings. And this is where I recently changed my profile name from my actual name to a series of digits and numbers because I didn't necessarily want everybody to know who I was right off the bat. And I also put my email address in there and made it public so that people could write to me via my email, my personal email. about a family situation because I like to communicate by email, but that's up to you. You can make it public, you can make it private. You could add a phone number as well. That's usually for account recovery. I don't want that to be public. I think my phone number is in here, but it's not public. I don't want people calling me about family history. I've really never enjoyed that. I never enjoyed talking on the phone, actually. Also under that section, you see that there's a source box. So when you're going through the site and you find something you want to say, but you don't know quite where you want to put it yet, you can always send it to that source box and it will be there for you to use as long as you keep it there. You can delete it whenever you want to, and it's no longer of use to you. If you find people that you want to be buddies with and you just want to keep their contact information, you can add them to your contacts. So those are some of the basic settings. Now let's get to the family tree. And just walk through a few aspects of it. You see, I went to family tree and under family tree, I chose tree, and that means my view of the tree. That's me. That's where the tree starts, and it's all of my ancestors and all of my other relatives that I want to be in the tree or that other people have added. There are many different views that you can use for the family tree. You see the fan chart view right now, but I can choose a landscape view of my tree, which would show me and any spouses that I have, any children that I have. I haven't put my spouse in here. I don't have any children, but this is a view of the tree that you can navigate and expands outward in both directions and scroll across in both directions. And you can actually add people to the tree from this view. For example, if I see, also you can see the record hints that they're providing for you. But if I wanted to add a child to my grandparents that isn't already there, I could do it from this view of the family tree without going into the individual record and just adding all the information. I can expand it out indefinitely in this direction. It's like having an infinitely expandable draft board to work on. And you just have to scroll across it in any direction you want. We're on family search, and then I went under the family tree tab at the top that I'm highlighting there, and then I chose tree. Yep, that's what I did. Okay. It keeps track of the recent activity as well. There's a way for me to find anybody in the family tree using this part here. But anyway, I don't want to get too far off base. So that's landscape version. There's a portrait version that instead of being more horizontal is more vertical, up and down movement. And you can see that's just typical. You've seen things like that before. There is the fan chart, which I prefer. And then there's a descendancy view. I don't have any descendants, and I'm not likely to have any. And then there is the first ancestor, which I can designate someone in the family tree to be a first ancestor, like the first known person in a Scottish Highland clan, and then add all of their descendants and see a view of all of their descendants from the 16th century forward. A lot of the clan histories go back to the 1400s or the 1300s even. If you were in a Chinese clan or an Indian clan, you might want to use that kind of a view of your tree. But my preference is to use the fan chart view. And you'll see that there are options in how I can view fan chart. It shows all my ancestors. What I like about it, the male side is on the left-hand side and the female side is on the right-hand side. And I can see where my gaps are. And I can choose someone else, like my grandfather. Let's just choose one that actually shows some ancestors. My grandfather, Edmund DeBerry, that's probably, I don't know, 5 grandfathers back, 4 or 5. If you see when I hover over him, I get another little fan chart looking thing there that shows up in gray over him. If I click on that, he becomes person 0 instead of me. And I see all of his ancestors that are in the family search tree. And I know that I really need to work on him because his mother was not named Sarah Massengill. That's completely wrong. They've got the wrong Henry DeBerry in there. In their minds, they've got the wrong Henry DeBerry and wife in there. Beyond that, it's correct on the male side. But I can add more ancestors. I could change her. I can add her parents in, her actual name was Sarah Dumas. So that's something I need to work on. If I want to get back to me, see that little home, little house in the top corner? If I want to be person zero again, if I want to be the origin point, that's all I have to do to get back to me. So, yeah. Once you know that, though, it's not scary anymore. Um, and then up here, I can zoom into it or I can zoom out of it. Whenever you see the plus or minus, zooming in and out. All right. Also, once you click that and well, I'm moving it now with the roller on my mouse. See, there are all kinds of things I don't even know. Uh, let's see. Hit reset view. I can make it full screen with those little corners. And then when the corners are facing in, it takes me back to out of full screen. And you'll see that again when we do the records viewer. So the great thing about the big overarching family tree is that collaboration can produce a better outcome in the end. All of us make errors, and they could benefit from the knowledge and experience of other researchers. It's a kind of open-ended peer review in theory that's going on in this tree. That's why it's one tree for all people, right? And just think about how knowledge of ancestors may evolve as more research is done over time. Everything is being perpetually editable can be an advantage when we're doing with this kind of work. So I'm going to look at my ancestor, William Adams here, because he is a big issue for me. When I click on him, I get a digest of information on the right, a summary card about him. And I want to navigate to him as a person in the tree so I can see all of his details. So that's where I click on person. And we can see what an individual record looks like in the family search tree. Now, see these pencils? By any particular point of any particular data point that you have in here, you have the ability as a registered user of Family Search to change it. And you will be forced to change things. Because anybody can come in after you and change things, you'll find that they've made mistakes that you need to go back and change again. And I've done that ad nauseum with William Adams because there's a family history. Well, actually, it's a county history that was written in the late 19th century about Marlborough County, South Carolina, where he lived. This was a minister who wrote this, a Methodist minister, very prominent man from a very prominent family. He wrote a very good history of his county, but his source of information about all the families was not family history research as we think of it, using records. It was talking to his neighbors, basically, and getting what they knew. So there has been an ongoing controversy about who William Adams' father was ever since this genealogy was set down in print. Now, William Adams, as you see up here, he was born in the 1760s. Now, this is the son I'm talking about now. He was born in the 1760s. He died when he was almost 100 years old in 1855. It has been told over and over again because of the Thomas history of Marlborough County, South Carolina, that his father was named Jonathan Adams and his mother was named Mary Robeson. There is nobody named Jonathan Adams in the Petey section of North Carolina at the time he was born. You will not find anybody named Jonathan Adams. And yet, if you come up here and look at his father's gravestone, allegedly, as big as day, I need to go to the memory section for you to see it good. That's where the actual image is located. It says big as day, born 1740, Jonathan Adams, died 1783, patriot and gallant soldier of the Revolution. Story is that he died on the way home from the Revolutionary War, which could make that date about right. These are his children. My ancestor is his son, William, who died at almost 100 years of age. Married Mary Robeson. It's all laid out there for you, right? Well, I got news for you. This man never existed under that name, and he is not buried here. And this stone was erected in the 20th century, as will be obvious to any of you who looked at a cemetery before. So this is something that appeared in that book, and that's what this is based on. And because his son is buried here, they just decided that he must be buried here too. The truth is that William Adams, his son, moved when he became an adult. Now, he was orphaned as a young man, and his mother, whose name was not Mary, remarried to Luke Roberson. That's where the Roberson name comes from. And they moved to South Carolina, to Marlborough County, the adjacent county across the border from Richmond County in North Carolina. So his father would have died, most likely, if he's coming home, he would have died somewhere on the way home to Richmond County, probably was buried on his farm. At that date, there would be no gravestone that survives. It might be a rock. It may have fallen over. It may be under the ground now. There could have been a wooden marker based on the way people were buried back then. So where does this Jonathan and Mary stuff come from? Well, I'll tell you where it comes from. If you go to his son, the one who's said to be a boy hero of the Revolution, that the Tories tried to hang when he was a child because he knew information they wanted to have, you will see that his wife was named Mary Marine. That's his first wife, one of many. And if you look at her record, what are the names of her father and mother? Jonathan and Mary. So it was just a matter of the Adams people that Mr. Thomas, the Reverend Thomas knew, getting the mother's side's parents confused with the father's side's parents. So it's gone back and forth. Over and over again, somebody will come in and change the name of his father to Jonathan.
Somebody website. They can do some research.
That's right. But before you do that, now these are very nice people in the LDS church. They don't want to get involved in your family quarrels, right? They want you as an adult to try to solve this matter, right? Before you go to that length. And if you go to them, you need to have full documentation, right? You can report abuse. See over here on the top and the bottom on the right-hand side, there's a little place where you can report abuse if it gets to that stage. I don't recommend that because it just creates bad blood.
Is I said, if this person, and I had all that application. And this person kept changing it back, and I would, went to them and they still kept changing it back. And I finally called them, the LDS church. I said, it's messing with your ordinance that if they keep changing that, and you better believe they fixed it and it's gonna change.
Yeah, I mean, but
Larry,
ideally, let me just give them the peaceful way, okay, to start with.
Larry, do you ever use the collaborate?
You would. Because
Someone is talking to me from online and I'm barely hearing them. I'm sorry.
Do you ever use the collaborate?
That's a good point. I'm sorry. Somebody was talking to me online and then what were you saying? This is the one tree. This is not this is the wiki tree that everybody can touch. I don't have a personal tree. I could have a personal tree, but I don't. No, that is your baby. All right. But the thing is, the reason why I like to use the wiki tree is because I want everybody to know the truth. Okay, right. I call it a wiki tree because everybody can touch it, right? Can change it at will, but the one tree. I'm going to call it one tree. Okay. There is a section here called collaborate where you could put up a discussion. You could start a discussion and post something about why you believe this person belongs here rather than there. This is the record you should look at. And you also want to attach sources that show that. And I got so frustrated that I actually did attach sources, not to William, but to his father. So I'm going to go back to show you where I did that. Here, under sources. So I've got one of them open already here. You can see that I added it in October of last year. And it's a deed that comes from 1796 in Richmond County and shows William Jr. selling land in Richmond County after he had moved to Marlborough, that the deed says he inherited from his father, William. So because his father died before the abolition of primogeniture and inheritance, because he was the oldest son, he got all the land. And it still applied at that point. So years later in the 1790s, when he sold it and he had moved and married, it was his to sell, his to dispose of completely by himself without anybody else to say so. And guess who? I also point out that the signatory is not the only clue to which somebody I thought will come back and say, well, that's not the same William Adams. That's not the William Adams that we descend from in Marlborough County. Well, guess who signed the deed as his witness? His father-in-law, Jonathan Marine. So tell me that that's not the right William Adams. You know, that's how I did it. I also have the state record of his father that exists in Richmond County, North Carolina. So he wouldn't be buried in South Carolina if his estate is in Richmond County, North Carolina, would he? His widow, Obedience, not Mary, is his administrator. And then when she remarries to Luke Robertson, he becomes an administrator on the former husband's estate as well, which they've always said that Luke Robertson married the widow. So, if anybody takes any time at all to look at this and read it, they're going to think twice before they change it. Now, sometimes,
That you can under the names, like read this before you do add anything or change anything.
is that what they do when you make a complaint? Do they sometimes start with that? I don't know how to do that. Okay.
Yeah.
Add a note. It usually says something like significant research has been done regarding this ancestor. Read everything before you change it. And that is a good thing to have, but it can be locked down, and that's what the family search people can do for you, right? And that's under report abuse. Okay. Also, one thing I did here, and I did the wrong thing probably, but I put a very extensive explanation in the brief life history, and it gives all kinds of details. So I'm hoping they'll read that. If I get a change and someone hasn't touched this, then I say, read that. Please read that before you make your decision.
You want to add that. Thing too. Or.
Yes.
Or.
Well, see, I didn't know how to do that. Now you've told me. Okay. Add a note.
You see, click on.
Oh, and I could say what?
Yeah.
Think carefully before changing. Read the life history and look at the source list before changing. All right. Well, there, you fixed the problem for me. So what happened? Oh, there it is. Yeah. So it's warning people away from making changes pell-mell. All right. So there are other things that you can do here. I have some other problems. People have come in and started changing other things in here now, but like they're saying that he was born in Amelia County, Virginia, and I'm like, on this date, I'm like, where'd you get that date? Where'd you get Amelia County, Virginia? We don't know. But it alerts me. The AI does automatic review of these records that you place in the family tree, and it can suggest possible problems with it, like the ones you see over here with these little blue or purple icons, like there might be a child missing, or this woman may be too old, young to have had children that are born at this date. It does things like that. If you're in a family history center, sometimes you can search records and automatically populate it based on your access to Ancestry or My Heritage or Find My Past. You can populate your search automatically from this record and go to that site and do research there. They have access to multiple family history sites when you go to a family search center. Um, Here's the note part. This is a log of all the changes that have been made on this record over the years and who did them.
Those people saying, like, are Mars. I mean, I see things in the records that you're working in, and I don't have no clue who these people. And I clicked on them to see how to contact them.
Yeah.
They're halfway across the country, and they're not related to this family, that I've been working.
Right.
So what I would, how they get change it, do their thing.
Well, in this case, it's because this tree is open to all.
And I thought, how are you related? Well, I'm part of the Canyon County Historical Society, and we're updating all the people that are on the tree that live in Canyon County. Well, because my father was from that county, I was born in that county. She added that record, and I said, well, I ain't taking off this, and why? And she was fine with that. But all it was somebody from the family going through and updating the records, and it could just be somebody. Maybe it's a distant cousin or something, but it's things they know what they're talking about. Or it's a county historical society or a genealogical society, and they're going through all the people that were in that family and just adding to the records.
Yeah, it could be something that crazy. It really could. Yeah. Um, okay, so there's the history of all the changes. And I've gotten into it with a few people. Honestly, I've not been rude to them or tried not to be, but I have had people be rude to me. But you can contact anybody through that messaging service and try to talk to them. If I click on his name, I can talk to him, or at least try to open a conversation with him.
And this, if somebody, you remember these people that somebody's gonna have to work. So this is why I go through and look at the people are there already, you have no family tree. So that you're not duplicating people, kind of build down from them where your family fits in. Because otherwise, I spent weeks merging people because somebody decided, well, I don't care that I did a Genicom and all these people are duplicates. That's your problem.
Okay, and I also wanted to mention here that if you want to follow one of your ancestors like I've been doing and drive yourself nuts, up here to the right is that star. That's where I clicked on to follow him or unfollow him. When I click it again, he's gone away. When I click it one more time, I'm following him. And every time I want to see what's changed, I think the monthly change report is usually it. Is it weekly? I think you can set it up the way you want it, but you get a notice in your email sometimes about it, or you can just go up to the corner and go under your notifications. That's the bell in the corner and see what has changed whenever you happen to visit. And the other thing I want to point out about this particular record or any record for an individual, it's one person, one record, one record for that person that finds all their information ideally. But there are a lot of duplicates in here, as you were saying, and you want to try to eliminate those and keep all the best information and get rid of the bad information. So one way that they keep track of people is with an identifier. It's an alphanumerical identifier divided by well, a dash hyphen actually in the middle. When you click on that, you can copy it and it's, like Control C, and you can paste it somewhere else when you're doing work on that person, trying to merge them, trying to attach them to somebody else as a parent or a child. You can always, that's something you need to do quite frequently instead of trying to search for them. It makes it a lot easier than searching for their name in a list. Let's see what else. We talked about this source tab. I think it's usually better to attach your sources from the record itself if it's found on Family Search than trying to attach it here. But I think there is a way to add a source here. You could also upload something from your computer. Not all the sources we have are from Family Search. You might have downloaded an image from Ancestry or MyHeritage, and you want to upload it here. You can do that. You can take a picture of something when you're out in the field doing research, a page of a book or a document that you found in an archive. And if you have that Memories app, you can put it in the Memories app and it'll be available to you up here.
You have those little family boxes that's got those gene.
Go visit somebody. You go visit somebody and they have photographs. I mean, back in the day, I used to have to borrow photographs to get them copied. Now you've got a phone in your pocket or a tablet. You just take a picture. If you have that app, you put it in the Memories app and it's available for you to attach later to anybody in the tree that you want to. I also want to mention, of course, now this about page is different from the details page. The details page is where you do all your work to change, to edit, to add. But the about kind of shows you what it's a summary. It includes certain aspects of all the other tabs, but it's what somebody coming to Family Search who's not a member and who does a search, who's not got a username and password, what they see when they get there. That's all they really see. Most of your work will be done from here. And you see that there are relationships. There are relationships to children. There are relationships to parents and siblings on the right here. Those are all editable. If I decide that William Adams is not Richard Adams' son, I could detach him from Richard Adams and Amy Shockley. I actually think that probably is his parents. There is a problem with the next generation back, however, in here that I need to correct. And you can add other relationships other than family, or if you don't really know whether this other person is a family member. That's where if you find them in the family tree and you click on their idea, you could add them automatically and explain when you add them here what their relationship is or what you suspect their relationship is. Mm-hmm.
One of the things is, like adoption, stuff like that. One of the other things that's nice about that is if you had to play boulders and you know who's put in the plate. You can add that there and then that helps African American families to start connecting those names.
Or if you find, for example, if you're doing your due diligence and you're looking at every single record you can find, and you find out that, oh, this man signed a promissory note with my ancestor on 4 different occasions. In other words, if he didn't pay the debt back, this other man would have to pay the debt. Now, that is not casual. There is something going on between those two. They're business partners. They might be close friends, but they could be a kind of family that you haven't figured out yet as well. So I think it's excellent. It's an excellent thing to have access to. Okay. There's a way I was going to show you how to merge records just in a sort of a general sense. I'm not an expert at merging records, but you're going to find a lot of duplicates. That is an issue. So to get back to my family tree view, I'm going to choose a different ancestor. I go to Family Tree, go to Tree. And I don't think I'm going to complete it. Every time you merge, ooh, people get upset sometimes. But there is an ancestor in here called John Allred on my father's side, and he died in 1792 in Randolph County, nearby to us right now. And let's see, he's going to be in Joseph Allred's ancestry. So I'm going to change my true view to make Joseph Allred person 0. And there we find John Allred. I'm going to go to his individual record using that right link. And you'll see that on the right-hand side, there is a possible duplicates tool already available. If Family Search has already found people that it suspects are duplicate, if you click on that, you'll find out who they are, and there's your work cut out for you, right? But I will tell you that all the duplicates don't come up that way. So another way is to find similar people underneath that option. Okay, so the first hit is the man that is the correct record, the record that I really want to keep. But as I look down, this is another problematic record. It is allegedly the same man because they died about 1792 in Randolph County. That's John Allred. But what's going on here is they've given him different parents. So this is a different individual. This is a different family entirely. Aldridge and Allred, we found out through Y-DNA, is not the same family at all. They're two separate families. They live in the same neighborhood in Randolph County. They sound a lot alike, but they're not. And years ago, a man named Rulon Allred, he was an LDS member, lived out in Utah. He wrote a huge book, and he speculated that John Allred's father was this William Aldridge, and that he was related to the other Aldridges that came to Randolph County, and we now know that he's not. So technically, this is not the right attachment. I think what I would do is go in and detach this individual from this couple, and then I would use his ID and merge it into this one and make sure everything's correct. But that's not what I'm going to do today because that's too complicated.
Did his son John
Yes,
before you?
but you need to add that John in if you can.
Believe,
Yeah.
like done that before, it's like, oh, now I'm disconnected from this family. Who exactly was that? And it's they don't get shot with it when they did that.
Right.
So always add the name of the person that you're deleting so that they have that child with that name, that they did have a child with that name, then delete your person.
Okay, so the one that I was going to practice on though is this one because this person has no parents at all, and this person is a very bare record. So I'm going to go to this person. First of all, I'm going to copy the ID of my ancestor. See, the ID is copied up there in the right. It gives me a notice of that. Then I'm going to go to this record, this person, and just show you what it looks like when you try to merge. So this is the person I want to go away, basically. If you look at the record, it's empty. There's only a name and dates, places for the names, the birth and death. There are no other relationships to other children, etc., to parents. There's no conflict here that's going to make it difficult. So it's a simple way to, it's a simple example to use to demonstrate this. So merge by ID is down here in the bottom right-hand corner. And I'm going to put the person into which I want to merge by Control V, and that's what I just copied from on the record I want to keep. And I do want to continue. And it's going to give me a warning in this case. The surviving person has been merged several times before. Please double check whether these people are duplicates. They're definitely duplicates, and I don't think a whole lot is going to be lost by merging this record. You can see the record I want to keep is on the right, and the record that is going away is on the left, and that's the way it should be. So is it a match? It's asking me here at the top right. No, it's not. You know, it gives you opportunities to back out at every stage because you may find you've made a mistake and you don't want to actually merge these people in the process. That's why it's taking you through a process. Make sure we're not doing something we won't have to undo later. So I say, yes, let's continue. And then I get to choose whether I want to keep any of the details over here or I want to stick with what I've got over there. And I can substitute any detail on the person going away for the person that is going to be the survivor in this merge. So I could replace this date of 1730 for the 1726 date. I don't want to do any of that. I just want to merge. So at the bottom, I'm going to continue because I want things on the right to survive, things on the left to go away. And then I have an opportunity to explain why I'm doing this and put in a good explanation. I would recommend a detailed one if it's a controversy.
It's easier to use also.
Yeah. I haven't merged it yet, but if I want to finish the merge, I go there because that will do it. And the other person is gone. Gone, baby, gone. You won't see them anymore. Yeah, I'm not going to do it. I just wanted to show you the steps to do it, okay? I don't really care that much whether that loose John really survives or not at this point. Now, here's the good part. This is the part I've been wanting to get to because it's what I use most. I don't use the family tree as often. I'll tell you what I use the family tree for most, and that is when I'm doing DNA research. And I'm looking at people who are matching me, and I don't know who their ancestors are at all. And I want to find out what patterns they're sharing with other people that are matching me in that group. This is a good, quick way. And I usually go under search and family tree, and it gives me an opportunity to put in a name I'm looking for in that tree and just to see who all the ancestors are as far as family search is concerned. Because I don't have time to do detailed research on all of these people's families that are matching me with DNA. I'm just looking for patterns. So it's good for that. It's one good resource to use for that. What'd you say? Yes, I went from search to family tree and I can add more options. Like if I want to put a woman's name in, usually it's enough to put if you're looking to find out who that matches all and their ancestors are, to put the man's name in and then put his wife's name in. And it's going to take you to the record most of the time if it's in there. It may not be in there, it may not already be in the family tree.
And fine. It does the same thing.
Okay. So when it comes to finding records, we're going to go under a couple of different avenues here. One is search and the records tab here. These are sets of indexed record collections. They're discrete collections of records from a single repository, aggregating a single type of record that have been collected into one group and indexed by volunteers or by volunteers and AI together. The level and extent of the indexing varies. You can find them easily under the anchor menu as search and records, and you can search everything indexed into collections at once, or you can be more focused like me and try to find exactly what you want. You can search for keywords in the collection title, or you can search by place. You can also use a handy map, which you see right down here, to drill into what's available for a particular place. So notice how I drill down into it to see what's available just for North Carolina. And here I don't have to click on the United States or North America like I did on the wiki. I can just click on the geographic area, and then I get the list of subunits over here on the right, which is states in this case. And these are all the collections they have for North Carolina overall. And you have to go across several pages. You can change the number of results per page. The one that I was going to demonstrate for you are the estate files. I use estate files a lot. This is what happens when somebody dies and all the property has to be accounted for and all the debts and all of it has to be tallied up and the heirs have to be given their portions. It's just a great way to connect generations. They're all on here for North Carolina. They're on here for a lot of different localities where those are available. And you can search for a name through the whole state and put the date of death in there is what I would probably do because this is all about death. When it comes to estate records, or you can browse. You can browse by county and just to see what estates exist for a given surname in your county. So I'm going to look for my grandfather, William M. Staley, whom I'm told was a big money lender and owned most of the land between Julian and Liberty because he foreclosed on many debts after the Civil War when people were quite poor. I like to think better of him than that, but that's what one of my cousins told me once. So I can choose Randolph County and I can choose S, and here's a list of all the S estates for Randolph County. And you can see that William is here. Now, he actually died in 1885, but the date is the earliest date that appears in the file on any document. His will was written in 1879, and that's why that date is there. It was probated in 1885 when he died. I want to show you the viewer. So when I clicked on that, it took me directly to the first page of his estate file, which is the exterior of the folder in which all the documents are located. These are all at the state archives in North Carolina. If you go there, you can actually pull this file out of a box, open it, and leaf through it page to page. And they do images of the front and back of each page. Sometimes there's nothing on the back, but they're still doing that in case there is something that you could barely see, you know. So anyway, you can see what has been indexed at the bottom. And it turns out only the name of the person has been indexed and the place and the date, just what we've seen before. But up here in the little corner in the left-hand corner at the top of the tableau is the image number. This estate has 53 images in it, and we're on image number 1. We can use that little box to navigate to a different image within the estate. So if I wanted to go to image 20, because I know that has something good on it that I want, I can type 20 in that box, click enter, and it takes me to the 20th image. The other way I can navigate through this is by going document by document with the arrow keys that are on the left and the right in either direction that I want to go. Let me see here. Okay. Now I can also see what's going on here through a thumbnail view of the whole file. And clicking on any individual image will take me to that image. So I can navigate that way as well. And that's what looks like a little ice cube container there in the corner. I can download an individual image. That's what the down arrow means. And I can save it to my computer and give it a name. So when it's in my download queue here, I can double click it. It opens up in my picture viewer or whatever I'm using, and then I can save it, give it a name that I want. I can print it. I don't recommend using the print. I usually download it first and then print it. You can control what happens a whole lot better that way. I can view it full screen. And when I click those little corners again, it goes back from full screen. And I can use the little slide icon there to change the brightness, to change the contrast. You know that you need to do that a lot when you're looking through these old documents because they're in various states of disrepair or brightness or darkness, depending on how the camera was working that day. I can rotate the image all the way around, either right or left. Have you ever seen things written on the side of a document in a different angle and you need to do that? And I can go into an invert color mode where I can see it white on black in terms of the print rather than black on white. That's through that little slide that says invert image colors under your options here, your little slide options. There are more things there, but that's probably good enough for now. And then the zoom in and zoom out is in the corner like it was before.
With the plus there,
Page with plus.
we'll like this little up above the squares.
Ah, yeah.
That should give you a chance.
Yes. Thank you. Okay. We're not there yet, but this is where the AI indexing has come into this. No one has gone through and transcribed this manually. AI has been trained to read the handwriting, and it is given it over here on the right, so that if you're having trouble reading the handwriting, that's where you can go. I would be very careful with it. There are definitely going to be problems with the names, particularly. If it's a kind of a standardized document like a deed or a will that uses certain kind of language over and over again, it's going to get a lot of those words right. But anything very unique to this document, like a name, could be wrong. But you can test it. I mean, you can go in and see if it's getting these things correct or not. I mean, that says D.H. Cameron. It says J.H. Cameron over here. Um, Basket is spelled with a P, but it got close, didn't it? Uh, so it's not perfect, but it's getting better. And so that's something to keep in mind. Also, if this is a record that I want to keep, if I want to keep this record and attach it to somebody, I can do that also from here. Um, so I could add it to my source box. That's that little box that you've got on the right-hand side on your main menu on this in your under your profile. You can put anything you don't know what to do with there. But if you want to attach it to an individual in your tree, you can do that here, attach to tree. And you can choose which person um, that you want to attach it to. It goes through several steps. You can put a date, you can put the source title in it, you can make some notes about why it's significant. And then, I don't know, let's just put something in here. This is 1885, actually. And this is a sale of the personal property. And then if I go to the next part of that attachment, I can put the person ID number in and it will attach it to that individual in the source tab. Whenever I go to that person, I can go to the source tab and there it is. I could also remove it from there at any time if I figured out that I gave it to the wrong person. So I'm not going to do that. I mean, I could type the name. I could put the ID in. I think I can type the name. Can I? Do I have to have that ID? So I have to scroll to find them?
Go find anything. Right.
Ah, yeah. Oh, then it takes me to, okay. Then I'd have to put his name information in.
And have that up. And then go to another page that has the source. Because then it will pop that person up as your top person to pick from. On that list of people. And then you can just pick them and attach them.
So see, I need her here. I really do. She need that too. That's why she's here. She's been to this presentation before. When it comes to finding a record, okay, the search catalog is also quite a useful avenue in. And I want to show you how you could do that. Maybe there's not a record that has been indexed already, but it's on here. There's a record that's not in an index record set for a particular locality, but you know it's going to be in here somewhere and you're going to find it. So I know that the man that I just searched for, not only did he have an estate file, but the estate file mentions an executor. What does it mean when you see an executor in the estate file? There has to be a will. No doubt about it. I don't have that will. And I don't happen to have the index to North Carolina wills that I need. But I know that the man died in 1885. So I can look for, in the family search catalog, I can look for the place where he died. And I do it the same way I told you before. I put the county in first or the parish. I put the state in next. And I put United States after that. In fact, when I began to type it, it pops up already in there. And I can just click it and it goes in. And I can look for everything in the family search catalog, whether it be a book, whether it be a microfilm, whether it be a digital record set that pertains singularly to Randolph County, North Carolina. It puts them into groups. So what you see when you first get your hits page is not lines of records. You see groups of records. It's a probate record that I want. That's what they put wills and estates under. So I'm going to look under that. And then I'm going to look for records of wills with index. Now, when you're talking about original records, the author is not going to be an individual, a person's name. It's going to be the jurisdiction. the county, the office that created the record. That's how you know this is not a book in the family history library. This is a set of records, original records. And it comes with an index, which is great. And then over here, you have a whole list of films, were formerly films. They are all now digitized. And we know that my ancestor died in a particular period of time. He died between 1868 and 1910. So that would be the time frame that I want to look for. Now, the icons mean something over to the right. The little camera means that this film has been digitized. And as she was mentioning before, the page with the plus sign over it, or the stars, I think it's supposed to be stars, means that it has been subjected to AI indexing. So I could possibly find it by going under search full text rather than the search records. I actually don't think this is what I wanted. I think I want the will books, and those are the original wills, I think. No, that was okay. I think I was where I was supposed to be, maybe. Or maybe it's that one. Yeah, okay, these are the books. I won't explain why they're books and loose wills right now because that's just too deep. But here we have the period from 1868 to 1889. My ancestor died in 1885, so I know it's going to be in there somewhere when this was probated. If I click on the camera, it takes me to the images in thumbnail view for that entire reel. Now remember that there are multiple books on this one reel, and we have 610 images. So which of these do we need to be on? Let's see what this first title card says here. See, even from the thumbnail view, you can see where the title information is. It starts the book. This will book covers from 1866 to 1886. So if he died in 1885, this is the book that I want, right? I'm going to go back to the thumbnail view. You can see that a lot of the old record books either begin or end with an index. This has an index of testators in it, people who created wills. So I kind of have to guess. So where would the S's be? You can see their lists of names on these different pages here in the first part of the book. So I'm going to look and I'm just going to try this one and see if that turns out to be where the S's are. Look how lucky I am. I didn't even look at my notes to find out what image that is. Okay. Do you see William Staley's will? Yeah, it's right there at the bottom on the left-hand side. It says it starts on page 527. So, all right, I'm on an unpaged image. That index does not have any page numbers on it. The page numbers start with where the wills begin. So I kind of have to go back and figure out what would there are going to be 2 pages to every image, right? I could do a complex calculation, or I could just hunt and peck. And I tend to do the latter. I tend to hunt and peck. So let's just see. What was the page number again?
5, 7.
All right. So let's go in a good ways. And we don't see another title card. We know we're still in the first book. Okay, we're on page 322 right now. And remember, when the people were imaging this book, they took retakes of various pages too. That can be part of it. There could be blank pages without page numbers. You know, they didn't get a good image the first time they took a second image or a third image. So it's not going to be exact. But let's just say, yeah, let's do 294. It's 572, right? We ain't
27.
527. Oh, well, I'm very close now. Okay, so I just need to go back a few images. Oh,
Ooh.
I'm only one page off. And I just used the arrow key to get to that page. And there it is a declaration about his death in the matter of the will. The will starts on a succeeding page, but there it is in the name of God on the 3rd page. I, William Staley. and it goes on from there. And we can look at the transcription too, because that's darkened up here in the corner with that little icon with the stars and the page. It shows me what they've decided the transcription is for those two pages if I'm having trouble reading it. But it's relatively clear, right? And I can navigate using the little thing at the bottom, the little film strip, by clicking on pages. I can use the arrow keys, and I can also attach it to my ancestor, like I showed you before. So it's pretty amazing. A lot of your work can be done internally inside this application. All right. Now, the last thing that we need to talk about, and maybe the most important thing of all, and you're going to be happy you stayed, is the AI full text search. Now, at this point, there are 2.5 billion images, they say, or thereabouts, growing all the time, have been subjected to this AI indexing. They did not take any of the collections that they indexed manually in the old days. They're working with the ones that haven't been touched, and they're trying to do the ones that they think are most useful. They tend to be focused on English language materials and Romance language materials like French, Spanish, Italian. Italian is the second, by the way. If you have Italian ancestors, they've already done a lot of work on the Italian records. And Dutch as well, which is not a Romance language. They're having a little bit more difficulty with non-Western languages. It's taking time. They're not as good at doing older handwriting as more contemporary handwriting like the 18th and the 19th century. When you get back into the 16th and the 15th, you might be dealing with Latin, for example, in some records, and you're dealing with strange chancery scripts and secretarial hands that we don't deal with a lot here. It takes training, but they're going to get there, and they're getting there already to an extent. English records, Scottish records that you've been using with strange Scots words that don't sound like English at all. A lot of that stuff is there. They
Really bizarre, and only did like 1700 or 1600 and stuff. And yet a lot of these AI picking them up and getting the right date.
they're saying that the AI is going to be better than humans in many regards. And I hate to say it, I really do. I hate to admit it, but I think it's coming true. Um, Now I'm going to give you a reference for this part because I think you really would want to watch this. If you go to the recent Roots Tech conference had a presentation on how they do this and how to use this the most effectively. And it was done by David Wimet. And you spell that Ouimettee. It's an hour long and it's very much worth your time to look at that. OUI, like we, like in French, METTE. Okay. And so what they do is, first of all, they do a segmentation analysis. So they look at these pages with all this beautiful handwriting on it, and they try to line up one line from another. If you've ever seen documents where they're trying to save paper and they scrunch lines of text together, or they put interlineations in between lines of text, that's what the segmentation model is doing. Then they do an orthography model where they try to pick out individual letters using the orthography standards of the time that this record was created. And the third is a language model that goes in once those words have been created from the letters to look at it and try to interpret it, transcribe it into English or Italian or French or whatever it is. So the way you get to it is through the search and full text. But there are other ways to access full text as well, like we were doing just now when we were looking at the will of William Staley. There are several different options for how to shape your search, and they are located handily here at the bottom on the right-hand side. You can use quotation marks for when you want to do an exact search for a phrase or a couple of words. You can put a plus in front of a word or also an exact quotation. That's right. And that means that word has to be on this page. You can do it for several words for the page. If you don't put the plus sign in front, it means that any of the words can be on the page, but not all of them necessarily.
Where do you put quotations together?
Right. And it doesn't have to be exactly together. There could be a word in between the first word and the second word, like a middle name or an initial. It'll still pick it up. And that's really good, actually, because it knows we're looking for names, right? So it's made it useful for us. There's a minus in there. That means I don't want this word to appear anywhere on this page. Please don't let it be there. So, for example, the man that's doing this presentation I was referring to, David, we met, he said, okay, I was looking for all the shoemakers that were working in the 1820s and 30s in the locality in Massachusetts where my ancestor lived. So I want to look through all those records and pull out the word shoemaker, but I don't want anybody named shoemaker to appear. So you could exclude shoemaker as a keyword, but make sure that it appears as a name like that.
Examples that he wanted was a shoemaker.
Okay, right. You're right. So I would put it in as minus shoemaker in the name field. And I would put it in as just plain old shoemaker up here, or I could put a plus inside of it, up front of it if I wanted to. And then you could put a location, or you could wait later once you get a long list of hits and filter out the place that you want it to be. It's an image. It's not a page. So like that will that was over like 7 or 8 pages, it would just be that image with the 2 pages on it. It won't be there. Exactly. You can also use wildcards. So you can use wildcards. So you can use an asterisk for any number of missing letters that you want to be there, up to 7 maybe. So there's a limit. Or you can use a question mark. The question mark means there is a word there, there's a letter there, but it could be any letter. It's just one. So for example, if you have the name Jensen, like it's giving there, but it's an E or an O, or maybe it's misinterpreted as an A by the AI, no matter what that vowel is, if you put the question mark there, it's going to bring it up. Does that make sense?
What bananas, like Vaughn can be spelled with a V or a B?
Then you would need to line those words up in the way they're spelled. You could just take the first letter out and put a question mark there. Or you can do iterations of it because you want to avoid words that have no connection to it. You know what I'm saying? The one thing you cannot do as of yet, and I hope that they will eventually get to the point where you cannot combine the quotation marks with any of the wildcards. So you can't do a quotation mark phrase and put in an asterisk or a question mark inside of that query. Okay, so you could also search by a particular film number. For example, I'm very interested right now in looking for all Guilford County references in the Supreme Court case files. And they all are on Family Search, those files. So I can go through number by number of the film numbers and put Guilford in as my search and find any instance that the AI has picked up of the word Guilford in that film, the entire film. So that's tremendously helpful for me. And Guilford doesn't tend to be a very common personal name. It tends to be the county name in North Carolina. So that's really good.
That tends to work better if you don't put the name in the name spot. put the name of the keywords.
Yes,
For some reason that whatever you would pull up.
that's right, because the name is misinterpreted. What it's saying with the name field, the distinction between the keyword field and the name field is that the AI has recognized a name, and that's how it gets into the name field. Sometimes it doesn't recognize a name, maybe because one of the words isn't capitalized as it perceives it, for example. You'll miss a lot of hits if you exclusively search for names in the name field. Yes, a good way to break into full text search is to use an experiment. That is like a beta testing area of this website. And that experiment is called Simple Search. It's basically, you can ask it a question, look for all the records regarding this individual in this place between this year and this year, and it will do that for you without you navigating through this search box. Right. Good. I will show you where it is. Let me show you where it is right now. So I thank you for bringing it up because I don't use it. I've not used it. I don't think about it a lot, but it's relatively new. There are all kinds of experiments, and the AI search, the text full text search used to be here. There's something called Family Search Labs. These are their beta testing things that they're doing with AI mostly. And you can view the experiments. And you can turn on the ones you want and turn off the ones you don't want. So I've turned on a couple here, but try simple search is the one she's talking about, and you can just try it. And you could turn it off again if you don't like it. But give me your query. Uh-huh. Orange County, North Carolina. Okay, let's just see what happens if I just do that. Yeah, or see, Peter Kinney is in all these, and it's looking for the metadata about what this is to find Orange County, or if Orange is listed in the document itself. And that's really simple, but I think you will miss some things if you don't do a more less mediated search, if you don't use all the functionality of a direct full text search. That's my experience anyway. Right. Maybe he owes a debt. Maybe he comes to their estate sale. And there you see him with another Kenny man, or he owes a debt with another man, or he calls somebody into court to be a witness or to sign his bond to appear in court. I mean, the Orange County civil action papers are in here. You could find all kinds of clues that you wouldn't even think about looking for. You'd also want to put his name in a different way as well, though. That's what I'm saying. Maybe that E before the Y isn't there, for example. Or maybe it's ENNY. You just never know how somebody will spell it or how the AI will interpret it. I want to show you real quick how I found out about that John Parker that does not connect me to Zachary Taylor. So I was interested in the John Parker who died in Brunswick County, Virginia in 1772. And I thought, well, I don't know if this is going to help me, but sometimes when a person moves from another Virginia county or another place, they have some land that they left behind there and they don't sell it till they get to the new place. So maybe the deed by which he sold the land wherever he was before, and he was in Brunswick County from the 1730s, almost from the time that it was formed. He had kept an ordinary, like a tavern. So I thought, okay, I'm going to use search full text and I'm going to put his name in here in quotes in the keyword, like you said. And I'm going to put in plus Brunswick. And I'm kind of hoping that, that county name will be mentioned in the deed. And I did a search. Oh my goodness, I got 3,835,000. So what do I do about that? Well, the thing you should do, and notice that the capitalization didn't matter. I put it in lowercase, but it pulled the uppercase in. I'm going to refine by filter here. I'm going to say, okay, he appears in Brunswick County in the 1730s. I'm going to check in the 1730s, 40s, 20s. So I can go under the date filter, choose my century, and then click in the three areas and then apply. And I'm down to 8,000. Well, that's a lot better, but I still have a ways to go. So let me look and see. It might have pulled up already here. Ah, there it is. This is exactly what I was hoping for. If I click on it, I can see the original record. So here in 1744, John Fraser, Parker rather, in Brunswick County, sold to Captain John Miner of Fairfax County, and this is in Fairfax County, Virginia. That's exactly what I was looking for. As far as I know, he was the only John Parker in Brunswick County at this time, and it's almost certainly him. So that's immigration proved right there. I was able to look at this John Parker's records further back in time and find potentially who his mother was. I didn't find his father yet, but I had no idea where to look. That is how powerful this is. And this is not a singular episode with regard to me alone, much less all the other people. I have helped a lot of other people with this too. Recently, I was trying to help a woman descended from free people of color. And if you know anything about free people of color, they were often bound out as children in court records as apprentices because their families were considered inadequate means to keep them from being on county charge. And sure enough, I found a whole list of the siblings of this person and this person about the right time when they would have been a minor and in a place that made sense. It's stuff like that that really, warms the heart when you can help yourself or other people, and you don't have to look through every page of every document to do it. I would spend days and days in the archives looking through things like this because even if you're dealing with deeds, are the witnesses indexed? No. Are the people mentioned as living on the land but not owning it mentioned, like all the poor people who were leasing land? No. But they're in the AI because the AI has looked at all these pages. It may get names wrong occasionally, but the fact is, in a legal document, a personal name is often repeated so many times that it's going to get it right one time. And then you look around it. You don't just look at the one instance. I think that's about all I can handle, and probably all you can handle right now. There's a lot more to learn, but you've got all that information from Roots Tech and from the wiki, the research wiki that you. Hmm?
Did you want to save it?
I won't do that right now. I know how to find it. In fact, I printed it. I still have files. I'm one of those people who owns paper still, but I will at some point attach it to his record because it's important that other people know that they've already got my grandfather on the wrong John Parker. That's the first thing I have to solve. I don't even know if the right John Parker is in the system, but I think he probably is. All right. Question time. I think you probably just want to go home, right? Thank you for listening. Do we have anything on chat?
Didn't see anything. You don't see any hands, didn't see any, saw some discussion on the chat, but I think that's what it's been, it's sort of following along with you.
Okay. Well, I thank you all
A lot
for
of good
coming.
comments.
Good.
Milstein got three hands up. Larry, I think we're good. I appreciate it, Larry. I learned something again. One of the things that happened to me, I got away from family serve. But they've certainly improved it in the last few years.
Definitely. I'm going to stop the meeting online and say thank you to everybody for coming. And you can always contact me if you have specific questions later on at my email address, which is larry.cates@highpointnc.gov. And this presentation will be available on our YouTube channel probably later next week so that you can review all of it. And our YouTube channel is called Heritage Deep Dive. All right.
I'm gonna share how many. That's my.